Okay, so what we're doing here is we're adding color to, we've done a contour line drawing, just like we always start. And we're going to put light values everywhere. I haven't quite finished over there yet. And we're going to, that's too dark. So if it's too dark, have your Kleenex or paper towel ready to blot it out. You know, always blot it out. And you're going with the same values, the same idea of making dark areas. See, I want to go with what would be a 7 in that dark area. And I don't use, there goes my earring. I don't usually use black too much. I think it was Monet who didn't believe in using black. You can make black actually with all the colors, so if you don't have black, don't worry about it. And here I want to, that's too browny. Let me put a little, I want to flatten that brown, make it colder, I guess is what I want to do. So how do I make it colder? I could take some of this black off here and put it up in there. And see how that cools that right down? So we're watercoloring. And notice that I use a whole lot of water and not much color. I just move it around. So we can move some of this up. And you can let it kind of slide together. They get friendly. Okay, so let's put some. And don't be too quick to clean out the top of your paint container, because some of those colors you might have difficulty making again. I remember the kids in college would have all these baby food jars, and when they made a color they weren't sure how they made it, they'd save it in a baby food jar, and that was kind of funny. Okay, so I'm going to start with a light brown. That's too dark. Let me give it some more water. On this, I can't tell if it's a potato or a pear. It's something, but it's already too warm. So I'm going to put a little blue in it to cool it down, because it's a cool color. And I'm going to soak some of that out of there. And there's a white highlight on it right about here. I had it too far up. I'm going to cover it up. And then it will contrast. Now I don't want to get it too close to this edge, because this edge is still wet. But I'll leave that white highlight there. Bleed a little brown in there. And put a little blue in there to make it darker right through here. I gotta be careful I don't get too heavy-handed with the blue, because you can get heavy-handed with the blue. And check your brush. See, I don't know if you can see the little hairs flailing out there. I'm going to spin my brush in the paint to get it, and see if I can get it smoother. See how I smoothed out those hairs that were sticking out? Yeah, that's much better. I'm just going to cover that little pencil mark up. And then down in here, there's some pale blue, so I use a lot of water. And I can put in a pale blue right in there. You don't have to match the color exactly. It doesn't really matter. Let me just take that up. Sometimes there's still enough water in the brush that it can make what you want. I'm going to take it right up to the edge of that. Okay. Yeah, I kind of like that grayish color. Let me put it in the basket. See how it looks. Because see how that is kind of a grayish color? I don't know if you see that, but it's sort of grayish, so that particular piece of whatever is grayish. Okay. I think I just got it too purple. Yeah, I did. Okay, if you happen to have a thicker brush, and this, this is an El Cheapo brush, I'm going to put it in water. lots and lots of water. Going to spin the point. It only has that one place that's sticking out. And I'm going to put pale blue in the background. And after that pale blue dries, I will start to do the various colors to show the folding in the fabric behind it. And I think I can go right over that stem because blue and yellow make green. As long as it's a color that's part of it, you can go right over it and still get your nice green stem. Because you can see how green that stem is on this pepper. So I won't do that until the very end. You're putting in your big areas of color first, and I just happen to be using a small brush, but I think I'll put it on this too. That'll give something to build on. And then I'm going to take it over here. Now, I will do this again in colored pencil for those of you who do not have watercolor paints, but they're not that expensive. Tim, what do you think watercolor paints cost at the grocery store?
I think $5.
Okay, he thinks around $5. I'm not sure. All they gave me, the district gave me, was glitter paint. Whoops, that's a little too intense. Whoa, look at that intensity. We don't want something that intense. Unless I want to do a fold there. I guess I could do a fold there. There is a fold there. Maybe I'll leave that alone. With watercolor, you got to kind of go with the flow, which a lot of times you guys aren't comfortable with because you don't like things to go where you don't want it to go. So for some of you, that's why you need colored pencil, because you want to control. You want to be in control. Watercolor, really, you just kind of have to let it happen. And there's a real correlation between watercolor and oil painting. You can paint over both of them, but it's easier to go darker rather than lighter. And I have to be careful I don't cover up my leaf completely here, because I've got a leaf there. And I gotta leave it alone. Ooh, that was a terrible joke, Miss Lovely. You gotta stop that. Okay, I will. All right, so gonna put a shadow there. And I'm gonna take that shadow down around my pepper, which is awfully pink, but I will be darkening that in because I will lay color on top of it. So for your first endeavor into this area, I would like you to just put in light colors like this. Next week I will, maybe the week after next, depends on where we are, because we don't want to, it's better to be good than fast. See, orange and yellow, yellow and red make orange, and this particular pepper is orange. So, and I don't know what that is because it's blue. I don't know if it's a fabric or something, but let me put some blue in here, very light blue. Make sure it's light. No, that's gonna be too dark. Yeah, put water on that. Always work light to dark with watercolor. It's best to do that with painting too, but some of you, that isn't always the way you work it. I'm going to leave this guy orange, and I'm going to blot him because it's sort of a white orange, and I don't have white. You have to let the white of the paper be the white. See, I painted around the white areas of this, and then if you get it somewhere you don't like, well, you got white out, don't you? That's what you can use it for. If you don't have white out, just make everything darker. See, I'm gonna shade some of that. And then I'm going to water it down so you can sfumato it. But you sfumato it with water. brown in that. Just a little bit, though. I gotta be careful. Because you can go too fast, too, with the brown. Okay, so I'm gonna move that over. There's enough brown there that I can use some of it. And I wanna wipe it off on my Kleenex. And I'm gonna move some of that brown over to this side, but it's gonna be faded. Okay, up in there is a dark green, and because it is smaller, I'll use a smaller brush. If you have to use a big brush for all of it, just go slowly. Don't use the blue right out of and the green right out of the paint set. Mix it up and test it on something first. Put a little more blue in that. Yeah, that's a little more like it. Because you can see that, and my handle goes off the page there. I'm going to paint it up. Oh, it's a little too blue. Not so bad though. I'm going to paint into that. And I'm going to leave some areas in it light because they are. And then I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and then I'll go back in and put in darker colors. So, and if you have just a piece of scrap paper by you, you can check your colors. For instance, I want this to be very green, and it's going to be, see how green that is? Now I have this blue spot, but that's okay, because the area behind that has a big dark shadow. So if I'm very, very careful, I can paint beside that, and that will be a dark blue. And that's almost pure pigment there. So I'm not sure what color that, there it is. I want it darker. I want that pepper to be the star up there in the corner. And if it's not wet, it won't crawl into that area, so you're safe. You have to be careful, though. You have to be real careful. Okay, that dark pigment is going to come down and go around our pepper and make our pepper stand out. Because even if this were black and white, this is a lighter value, so therefore anything. Okay.
You're live again.
Our director has just had a phone call. I want to kind of clarify those lines. And they're a little strong, so I'm going to blot them with my... Yeah, that's better. And another way you can do it is just get it real wet. And I want to, again, sfumato it. So it's kind of like that. When my watercolors get in, I will tell you, I'm frustrated with the district. I'm frustrated with school specialty, which was supposed to have all this stuff to us and has not gotten it to us. I don't know what they think they're doing. Now, if your water gets so dirty that if you were dying of thirst, you wouldn't drink it, don't paint with it. That's my philosophy of life. Don't paint with it if you wouldn't drink it. Ew, Miss Fleming. I never drink that. Well, sometimes you do. I've often... Well, what I do is I'll be in a restaurant or something and I won't be paying attention and I'll dip my brush in the Coke. And so I'm drinking Coca-Cola that has watercolor paint in it, but, you know, that's just me. Okay, so there's our pumpkin. I'm going to soften some of those lines a little bit. So I'm just going to get them real wet and soften them. There's our pumpkin. And I want to make that not quite so. It looks to me almost like it has a green in there. So let's see what it looks like if I just do. Yeah. If you see a color, even if no one else sees it, put it in there. Because I see, now it's a little bit here, but this handle right here is really, really got a highlight on it. See, it's very highlighted, so I would not do very much with that. Now I got to go back down this side with my darkness. Into the darkness we go. Around that stem, next to that basket handle, so that basket handle really stands out. And this would be true if you were using acrylic paint or any kind of paint. So see how that handle all of a sudden is very dramatic. So we're going to make it dramatic. And this is watered down, but it's perfect for this part of the, whoops, be careful, Fleming. Yeah, let me see if I can, nope, I'll have to pinch that out there. See if I can orange it up. Yeah, it's too heavy. Now that water is getting so you really wouldn't want to paint with it. So I'm going to go over. Yeah, and why do I have a tube of paint in there? Because it dried up. And I'm hoping that I can revive it, bring it back to life. We have to cut that part out. Okay. Okay, meanwhile, back at the ranch. I'm going to try and, there we go. Got it wet enough that it sfumadoed it again. Okay. Okay. I am fussing over this poor pumpkin. Oh well. I want it to gradually get darker. So there we go. There's our pumpkin. And I want to put just a little bit of light blue in here so that there's no white. I don't think white does anything for it unless it's supposed to be white. Then I'm going to make my dark blue behind this one side of the stem to make the stem stand out. And you can see how I left a little white line there. If you look really, really carefully at this, you can see a little white line along there. So it isn't just my imagination, it's really there. Now, if you're someone who really wants to learn to draw fabric, you can work on this one. I think colored pencil would be best if you are somebody who wants to be a fashion designer and get fabric just right, because that's not my forte. I'm never going to be a fashion designer. Absolutely no interest in it at all. The only time I made my own clothes is when I didn't have any money to buy them, because I refused to ask my parents for any money for that. So I actually made my own money. My own clothes. I made my own money. Yeah, it was a forger. No, I made my own clothes when I first got a job because I didn't want to ask my parents for money for clothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I had some really wild outfits.
No, good.
Well, you know, your sense of humor comes out when you design your own clothes.
Right.
Pick your own fabric. You can make up a lot of this in here, because I don't think anybody cares what the basket looks like, just so it's recognizable as a basket. I'm going to Sfumato that part of it too. So see how it just softens the lines when you put the water on it while it's wet? Painting when on wet is pretty standard stuff. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to put that blue. I wouldn't worry about getting the fabric or the weaving correct. It only is a problem if you're actually making a basket. Then it's a problem. Okay. This little stem over here is brown, so I'm going to make that brown. Again, I'm going to put some more brown on top of that because it's still not dark enough, I don't think, when it gets down here. But I don't want it that shade of brown. I need some blue in it because it's a cold color. I'm going to let that sit there for a second. I think I'll play over here for a while. So I want this part to stand out. And here. And you're pulling the paint. I've seen an awful lot of kids look like they're mopping the floor. You're not dragging it everywhere, you're pulling the paint. And if you spin the brush, you can get a decent point on it. So you can go into tight spaces like that. Even with this crappy brush that came with the paint set. And I want to make it dark over here too, to make this pop out. So I'm going to take my blue, mix a little bit of brown with it, and pull it up along through here. And this is what I mean by mopping it. When all the little hairs go out, no, you don't want that. You want the hairs to stay together. You want your hairs to stay in place. And sometimes you don't need more paint, you need more water. And it isn't flowing like it should. It probably needs water as much as it needs paint. I think I'll try a little purple in there to make that a little more exciting. The background, you can have a little fun. Move that over. I still want it darker still. And as long as this other part is dry, you'll be fine. It'll just crawl where you want it to. Okay, so I think I'll make this edge dark too. I make all sorts of noises when I paint. What?
Just looking for like color.
Those are
This one.
oil pastels, and then I label everything.
Okay.
Because if you don't, you spend all your time looking for stuff.
All right.
Now, who wants to do that? I mean, come on. So, and I'm only getting dark with the background to make what I've done seem more lively. Now I'm going to move that around on this one. It started to soak in, so move that a little bit there. And then I think it's still kind of dark, so I'm going to take my Kleenex here. Don't smear it just blot it. And then I gotta put a little yellow in there. But I gotta make sure it's yellow and not green. Let's see if I can get a little bit of yellow in there. It's still awfully green. I might have to rinse out my brush before I do that. And then I want to make this very dark right here so that I don't know if it's a pear or potato, but I want it to stick out. Because before you go to color, you really have to master black and white. Or you never get really good at color. You really don't. Okay. Let me take this down here. And I want to make that softer. So, am I going to get this done today? No. Do I want to play a little bit? Yeah. So if I go down here to this leaf, which has some green bits in it, I'll put some green bits in it. I'll let those green bits dry, and then I'll bleed some red into it. So I'm going to let those dry, and I'm going to go over here to this one. Make sure this is up close enough that you guys can see. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how directors are. And you don't have to get the perfect color. I like that color. It's pretty. And I'll make it pop by making this background really dark. And I kind of like purple and blue together in the backgrounds to make things stand out. Now, if I were doing it in colored pencil, I would be much more particular, but right now, I'm not doing it in colored pencil, I'm doing it in paint. And I like the freedom of paint. And I particularly like watercolors. Occasionally, you have to see if that little, no, there's a little hair that's sticking out. I've tried cutting it off. All you do is screw it up, so don't do that. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Okay. Okay. Watercolor is great for doing leaves because you can bleed them together like this, and then if it's too dark, you go, and you go in again. And this one has a bit of yellow in the tip, so I'm going to put a bit of yellow in the tip. And slide it down. Put a bit of yellow here. And I want it to fade a little bit, so I'm going to put some water on it. And there we go. Okay.
I got 15 minutes right now, so you can do another 5 minutes.
I can do another 5 minutes. Looking at my clock, I will get that very carefully done. Then we will have to upload this, and you guys will have to come up with something to paint with. I don't understand why the district would buy glitter paint. You are not 6 years old. You don't need glitter paint. I could see where they might get that for elementary school, but not for high school. You guys are in it to win it. You're not in it to play silly games. This is the same as for football players, you know? You're trying to score big time. Okay. Okay. I do the crisscross. This is not my thing, really, to do this kind of thing, but it's a basket, so I'm doing a basket.
About 2 minutes.
2 minutes. And see how I'm pulling the paint out? I'm not swabbing the deck. I'm pulling the paint. I'm gonna go around there too. So it would probably be another 20-25 minutes before I'd be done with this if I were on the clock, so to speak. I know people always say, well, how long did it take you to do that? Like I worked in a factory or something. I don't know what it is with people. I just play around with it till it looks right. And always it's a good idea to get back from it, and I have to rest my hand because my hand is not that steady. So you want to make sure it's dry where you're resting your hand.
Mm-hmm. You want watercolor all over your hand?
Yeah, and then it's on your clothes, and then it's everywhere. I don't know. I'm just playing here. Okay. I think that's all for today. We will take this up again next week. Hopefully you can get some watercolor. If you are doing this in colored pencil, please just put down light layers of color and put, for these white areas, you might want to put white on it. You can combine colored pencil and watercolor. That's called mixed media. Just let me know that you've done it mixed. And that's it for today. Thank you.